Given the graph below, write an equation of the function. So I can see that this particular parabola has a vertex at -2, 4, and one point along the parabola I could use is -1, 2. So I'm going to write an equation of the parabola with these 2 points. In vertex form, it looks like this: y equals ax plus 2 squared plus 4. Remember, you're changing the sign on the x. Then I'm going to use the random point on the parabola. I'm going to plug in -1 for x and 2 for y. Solving for a, -1 and 2 is 1. 1 squared is 1. Subtract 4 to the opposite side. Divide by 1, a equals -2. That means this equation for this parabola is y equals -2, x plus 2 quantity squared plus 4. This linear line crosses the x-axis at -1, has a slope going from left to right, down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1. So I'm going to write these two. And I can see this boundary line occurs at -1. It's where it separates from being a parabola to being this linear line. The last thing I have to do is to put in the correct inequality symbols. So to the left of this boundary line occurs the parabola. So I'm going to draw an arrow going to the left for the parabola. And I can see on the boundary line there's a closed dot. That means there's going to be a line underneath saying we include the value on the boundary line. The linear line occurs to the right of this boundary line, so draw an arrow going to the right. And notice you have an open circle on the boundary line, so we're not going to include that point. No line underneath. Part B, determine the following if the following intervals are positive or negative. So negative infinity, these are x's, negative infinity to -3.8. So here's -3.8. So negative infinity to -3.8. This would be a negative y value. I'm just going to abbreviate. -3 to -2. Here's -3. Here's -2. This would be a positive y value. It's above the x-axis. The last one is 0 to positive infinity. So from 0, x equals 0 to positive infinity, this is in below the x-axis, so this would be negative y values. Okay, identify the end behavior. So I want to look, as x's go to the left, which direction is the arrow going? As I go to the far left, the arrow is heading down. Now evaluate as I go to the far right. As I go to the far right, the arrow is also heading down. Okay, for number 18. I'm going to use a pencil and then just go over the top with maybe a marker or highlighter to show my final answer. I'm going to start by graphing this parabola. So find a vertex of -1, +4, -1, +4. That's the vertex. Now remember that we're working with a quadratic here, so 1, 1, 2, 4, 3, 9. Any number that, or symbol that is out front needs to be multiplied by the y. So this becomes a -1, a -4, and a -9. What does that mean? That means from this point, I'm going to go 1 to the left and 1 to the right and down 1. 2 to the left from the vertex, 2 to the right of the vertex, and down 4. And lastly, 3 to the right, 3 to the left, and down 9. Next, I'm going to graph the linear line, negative x, so it has a slope of negative 1 over 1, minus 2, so start at negative 2. And we're going to go down 1, right 1, consistently, down 1, right 1. Take some type of a straight edge, connect those points. And now we have to look for the boundary line. Where does this boundary line occur? So the boundary line occurs at a value of 0. So this is my boundary line. So I'm going to darken in the final answer. This arrow says the parabola should only occur, look at the arrow, should only occur to the left, it's going in this direction, should only occur to the left of 0. So this parabola should only occur to the left. So I'm going to take it, you could take a highlighter if it helps you, or different color utensil, or you could erase what you had. The parabola only occurs to the left, and since there's a line underneath, it means on the boundary line I also include that point. So forget about this portion. Then this says that the linear line only occurs, look at the direction of the arrow, only occurs to the right of the boundary line. And since there's no line underneath, it means on the boundary line we make an open circle.